Morning team, it's me, your favourite, Jordan at the screen, and today I want to talk to you about the group of people who I dislike the most. My own kind. Nothing quite like a bit of self-loathing. I want to discuss why my generation has failed, why so many of my demographic are losers, abject fucking losers, pathetic snowflakes as they're called, puny saps, etc. It's because they've been conditioned to think that being such a worthless sack of shit is okay, it's acceptable. They've never been taught any different. And so in my discussion and exploration of this, I'm going to split it up into a little bit of a backstory, which is the violence question, and then go into what is the problem with today's generation. Which is essentially my main point, but I feel like the violence question needs to be discussed because it gives us an understanding of why today's generation are such pathetic losers and yet expect everything to be done for them. Kind of an odd situation they've put themselves in, but nonetheless. So let me start with the violence question. Violence is a part of life. There is no question. There's no running from it, there is no hiding from it, you cannot escape it. We are all innately violent. Sorry, it's just true. You can pontificate all you want about how much of a pacifist you are and how kind-hearted and soft you are, but when it comes down to it, we all are human, we are all animals, we are all creatures that have got here because of our organism's ability to be the most violent and to be the most brutal and to put ourselves on top. Historically, I'm correct. Violence, therefore, is the truest and most pure of motivators. It is what holds societies together and what keeps them in place. You do not question your boss if your boss can cave your head in. You do not question your boss if your boss can take your job away. I consider economic violence to be a form of violence. You do not question someone if they are twice your size. You do not question someone if they've got cronies who can come along and kick your head in. See what I'm getting at? Or you do what you're told if the same situations apply. Or you can tell others to do the same. In fact, our very legal system and the very thing that keeps our society together is predicated on this fact. If you do something that we as a society do not like, we will take you away and lock you up. Now you might think, oh, that's a very peaceful way of doing it rather than beatings and public executions and whatnot, but it's still predicated on the idea that we will use violence if necessary. Because have you ever seen it when an offender refuses to be arrested? It doesn't ever work out in their favour, does it? So, I'm not using that to argue against the rule of law. I'm just simply pointing out that it works. And I'm not contesting this. But we maintain our strength as a society because of our police and because of our militaries and because of our strength. We maintain position because we are willing to use force. And this works for everything. To paraphrase Cersei Lannister, in the game of life, either you kill or you die. And anyone who's seen Game of Thrones will know that anyone who didn't use violence at any point in that ended up dying. Because somebody will come along and they will use violence and you won't, and you know who's going to win that one. But yeah, referring back to another point, violence doesn't necessarily mean today physical violence like caving someone's head in. It can also mean economic violence, it can also mean psychological violence, emotional violence, etc., political violence, whatever. And so, the success of an organism, or a business, or a group, or a pack, or whatever, or an individual is based and it rests entirely upon its ability to be better than everything else and to defeat everything else. Or at least to not be on the lower rungs. So historically, civilizations that were weak, that were not able to use violence, fell down at the hands of civilizations that were able to use violence, that were stronger. See any invasion ever where the natives got colonized, for example. You can't exactly say much if you've got a stick and some spears and the opponents have Maxim guns. You can just imagine it, can't you? Because the violence put them in their position of strength. And so, those who are able to have this violence and have this strength, and also to be able to assert it, they're the ones who get ahead. This can work on the micro scale to the macro scale and to the wider social scale. Read Niccolo Machiavelli, Robert Greene, Sun Tzu, etc. If you do not fight for survival, you die. If you do fight, you survive, you grow. That's how business people succeed. That's how politicians succeed. They are willing to use underhand tricks or outright violent tricks or attacks to get ahead. You know, look at the recent leadership elections for the Tories and how that all worked out. Now, it didn't always work in everybody's favours, but they tried. But what this all boils down to is survival of the fittest. It's basic fucking Darwinism. So what gets me is something that we've known of for a couple of hundred years now, is how this message has been lost in the recent generation. How has the message that you have to fight for survival and you have to work hard, how is it gone? It's disappeared. It's vanished into thin air. Because the message now seems to be that violence is wrong in all forms and everything is okay. Everything. And this has had horrendously disastrous effects, because my generation grew up being taught that life is okay. You don't have to fight to stay afloat. You know, picture it like the Red Queen from Alice in Wonderland, right? Because this is what life is. You know, how she was constantly running, and no matter how fast she ran, she never really got anywhere. Well, that's what life is. If you don't run, you drown. You don't stay afloat. Always running, but staying in the same place. That's what you have to do. It's fucking wonderful, but tough. For those who want to read further into that, Matt Ridley's The Red Queen applies that idea further to evolution and the evolution of sex, but that's a separate discussion. And so this message starts young. You know, parents who don't discipline their kids, who don't spank their kids because they don't want to teach their kids that violence is acceptable, they actually kind of missed a point. Because now these kids aren't being reprimanded correctly. They aren't learning the brutalities of life, so they never learn. Oh, I don't know what my camera just did there. I'm going to say that line again. So kids who aren't kids who aren't reprimanded correctly never learn. They don't learn the brutalities of life. They just waddle on through. And they're also, at the same time, accompanied by this sort of bizarre helicopter parenting where parents are spending so much time sugarcoating everything for their kids and trying to make sure everything's so good and easy and being taught, yes, you can have everything, I'm going to wait on you hand if I'm going to give you everything you ask for. You're teaching them that they're never going to be held to account and they can have everything they fucking want. You can see what's going to go wrong here. But then they go to schools. And then this message continues. You've got these anti-bullying campaigns, which are these born out of these moronic sentiments of the 80s and 90s from these retarded postmodernists. And it culminated in this anti-bullying campaign that has done nothing but backfire. Because what it's done is reaffirm that socially formed hierarchies are bad, which is stupid. You can thank Marx for that one especially. Because life is a pecking order. Artificially removing it from schools and also from early childhood and from parents try to teach their kids everything's okay and everyone is equal. We're teaching kids that hierarchies don't exist and everyone's the same. They're going to have equality of outcome. We can't change the fact that we still have class-based hierarchies, intelligence-based hierarchies, work-based hierarchies. They all exist. Life is a great big social pyramid. Arbitrarily removing it from childhood and from early education isn't going to set these kids up for a good life. They're not going to have an adequate understanding of how life works. They're going to think everyone is okay, everyone is equal, we're going to get all the same thing. And so, well, these bizarre postmodernists and Marxists have just done away with all of it. And so, that's what's happened. These kids who've had society falsely questioned, in front of them, who've had it all undone and had all this damage inflicted to them, they grow up and see themselves, hierarchy and social structure is bad, and anyone on a higher structure, it's not fair. It's, some sort of abuse or privilege. Privilege is the word they love. They fucking love the word privilege nowadays, don't they? That, anyone having something else, it's privilege. You're not allowed to. I want it. I'm oppressed because I don't have the same outcome. And where have I got to? And so, sorry, but tough shit. Not everyone is great. Not everyone will succeed. In fact, very, very few will genuinely succeed. Very few. The optimum goal is staying afloat. That's peak nowadays, or the best. That's certainly the average. And so, with these idiotic child first campaigns they got in school, with these participation awards, with all of this equality of outcome, what you're doing is teaching kids that there is no point in applying effort. Achievers, intelligent kids who should grow on to be successful, they learn that putting effort in is pointless because they aren't recognized for it. And underachievers learn that being an underachiever is enough, and they will get rewarded for it. Which is why so many of these people at the same time also want a bigger welfare state. See when they're at uni now. And so the people who learn that they can get what they want, it's not the achievers who put the work in, it is the underachievers. Especially when you consider the other thing they're teaching in schools, which is that anyone can be anything they want. Which I know it doesn't fit in with equality of outcome, but that's what they're both teaching, these contradictory messages. I don't make the rules, I just have to fucking live by them. And so when you're teaching these kids that the sky's the limit, you can get what you want, we're going to reward you for participating, we're not going to criticize you for failure, and we're never going to reprimand you for doing anything wrong, they're coming through school life and they're going into adulthood with this perception that I can do what I want, I will get given rewards for doing whatever I want, and I will get what I want, and you have to give it to me. I don't have to work for it, you have to give it to me. And so that's what we're seeing now at universities with my generation. That's who all these kids are. The kids who complain that words offend them, they're not the achievers, they're not the successful kids who are intelligent and worked hard. No, of course not. They're the idiots. They're the losers. They're the kids who, would have been pushed around, who would have been social pariahs. But they've never been told that actually the way you're behaving is wrong. They've never been punished. They've never been given any form of negative conditioning. Because it's apparently wrong to do so. You can't hold people to account. You can't punish kids. Well, we've seen what this has done. It's failed. The anti-spanking kids campaign has failed. The anti-bullying campaign has failed. The Every Child First and participation awards, it's failed because we now got this entire generation of snowflakes who are super fucking entitled. And they're not going away. Their weakness, their conditioning to be these snowflakes, it's sticking around. And they're permeating. Because look at this, right? Remember the event recently with Antifa, the riots in Berkeley, right? Remember how Nathan D'Amico gave a good right hook to that dumb bitch Moldylocks? You'd have thought that would have taught her, maybe what you're doing is wrong. You can't go into riots with the intention of bringing back people's scalps and having a fucking glass bottle in your hand, with the intention to smash over people's heads. You'd have thought that, hey, I took a right hook to the face because of that. Maybe it was stupid. No, instead, all of the media painted her as a victim. People then started ostracizing and attacking Nathan D'Amico, saying he was this evil bastard for punching this poor innocent woman. And she was put on TV, and they interviewed her, and they placated her and said, it's okay, we're here for you. I don't know if anyone saw the interview of her. It was disgraceful. How she was outright lying about what she was doing there, and they sucked it all up. Yes, Moldylocks, you did nothing wrong. We completely agree with you. You are the victim. Here, we're going to give you everything. So, these kids can't do anything fucking wrong. They're going into city centres dressed like fucking ISIS with weapons in their hands, intent on committing domestic terrorism, and they still get rewarded because you did nothing wrong and you're the victim because you took a right hook. Fuck me, this epitomizes what is wrong with our generation. Because it's not just our generation, it's not really their fault. They've been conditioned, they've been brought up to believe this is what life is, that everyone else will give them what they want, they do not need to ask for anything, they just go out and get it, and will be given it, no questions, no criticism, you can never fail, you are perfect. Oh, sorry, tough shit. Life is not perfect, you are not successful, you are not special. Oh, you're a little kid and you want to grow up and be an astronaut? No, tough fucking shit you're not going to be. Chances are you're going to work some shit job and you're going to hate it. That's life. But hey, they don't tell that to kids because they don't want to hurt kids' feelings. because they'd rather wrap them up in cotton wool and, you know, styrofoam and say, it's okay, we'll be here for you, you can cry on my shoulder, and the big bad people, they're going to go away, and you're going to get everything you want. Well, fuck off. Life isn't like that. Sorry. And now that they're growing up and going out into life, permeating into local government, into main government, into the police, into academia and education, they're starting to have influence. You must follow their rules. You must conform to them. You must speak their language. Because if you don't, they'll come for you. And a good example is Bill C-16 in Canada. Bearing in mind all of these demands are not reciprocated. Of course not. Why could we ever demand anything from them? Bill C-16 in Canada, either you conform to their language, which they control, or you will be punished. Of course, they don't have to speak our language, we have to speak theirs, because why would they ever do anything for us? I mean, this language policing, it was done in the Soviet Union, it was done in Nazi Germany, Maoist China, and the control of language to fit their propaganda, and if you resist, you are the enemy. See again, Marxism kicking in. And Bill C-16, honestly, to me, is not surprising. I mean, 8 to 9 years ago, when I was on Tumblr, yeah, I was one of those, I was on Tumblr, it was already happening, this concept. You know, this whole non-binary and this transgenderism and all this, it wasn't quite as developed back then. Transgenderism has existed since the 50s in its current form. But when it was on Tumblr and how all these people would, you know, becoming otherkin as well. I remember when otherkin first started. Jesus, fuck, that was weird. But these kids were on there, and God, the arguments I would see on Tumblr were just fucking disgraceful about, you know, all these different identities they thought they had. Oh, I'm Wolfkin, oh, I'm this and that, it was retarded. But I thought to myself, in my fucking stupid naivety, that, hey, they'll go off to university and they'll have their views questioned and they'll be criticised and held to account, and that'll shake them up ready for the real world. And holy fuck was I wrong. Jesus Christ. When you look at, was it Yale University and the Halloween costumes? That was it. That cemented it for me. And so now, between this point now and over the next 5 years, they will permeate further into the real world. And I'm not going to be naive enough to think that the real world is going to fix them, because they have had 2 fucking decades of conditioning that they can do what they want, they will get rewarded for anything they do, and if you criticise them, you're the enemy. And it's not just them we're fighting against the system that is accepting this and supporting this. And they're going to continue. If you think Bill C-16 is the start, because when they get in their positions, they get further and further into them, they're going to apply more. They're going to mould more to the world. Imagine it like this. There's a log dam, right? With all this water behind it. Bill C-16 was one of the logs breaking, and their bullshit permeating through. And so what's going to happen is more of these logs are going to start tipping and falling and bursting out, till one day the entirety of the generation, through them growing up, are going to hit sometime between now and the next 5 years. And yeah, it's going to get worse. Unless if something catastrophic happens and stops them, I can't see it changing. This political correctness bullshit, this you must conform to my feelings, my pseudoscience, my neo-Marxist postmodernist bullshit, it's going to get worse. And if we do not stop it, our society will fail. And in fact, mentioning Bill C-16, over here in Britain, we very nearly had another one of our own, the Gender Identity Protected Characteristic Bill, which was a private member's bill from Maria Miller. Her name is quite well known over here in Britain. And unfortunately for her, fortunately for us, it has failed because of the general election, but I can imagine after the general election, it'll come back. And then it'll go through, and needless to say, it'll probably succeed. But they need to be removed. Pushed back. Imagine it like a cancer. You don't ask a malignant tumour to leave the body, you blast it with radiation and dissolve it. Somehow we need to find a way to do the same with our modern generation, because if we do not, our society will falter. We're going to fall apart. You know, as cohort replacement takes effect, all these pansies in higher education will become pansies in positions of influence. Or those positions of influence will be lost, and they'll just take positions in wherever. And so, what'll happen is, we'll then be a society based or fulfilled or composed primarily of these idiots. And as I said early on, we'll be a weak society, and so a society that's strong will come along and take us out. And it's already happening in mainland Europe. You know, this political correctness can't question these migrants who are coming over. And we've seen exactly what's going wrong there. You know, these people are coming over and they're willing to use violence. They're willing to threaten. They're willing to attack. And they're getting away with it. Because political correctness says you can't respond to it. Political correctness says it's wrong. Can't criticize it. So they're getting pushed around. The resistance against these idiots does not exist. It needs to. We need to stand up and face back against them. And fuck me, they're going to make a fuss. Because their egos are so fragile. Because they've never had anything but rewards for failure. Had nothing but rewards for instead of criticism. That as soon as we start really applying the pressure, my God, they're going to explode. Because they won't know how to cope. They've never, at any point in their lives, had to deal with failure. They've never, at any point in their lives, had to deal with being told no. Because, as they always say, no means no. Except for when no is being said to them. You can't say no to them. You can't deny them what they want. Because they go fucking insane. And that's what's probably going to happen. I actually do fear for our future. But where is it going to go? I don't know. Am I just being a dystopian again? Am I just being paranoid? I mean, well, 5 years ago, 6 years ago, when I saw these people on Tumblr going into higher education thinking that I'll be fine, I was being naive. I think I'm being naive again. If I were to say it'll be over, that they'll just disappear. Can't imagine it's going to be an easy battle. So what needs to be done is we need to reaffirm Darwinism. We need to take a stand against them and say, no, fuck you, you're failures. Otherwise, we'll be the ones who fail. We're the ones being weak, not taking a stand against them, and they're the ones who are willing to be strong against us. Are we going to take a stand, or are we just going to sit idly by whilst these people ruin our society? Because I don't want to sit around and wait until a stronger group of people come along and push us out. Do you? So that's been my pessimistic video, my negative outlook for life. Guess I'll catch you in the next one, I suppose, or if I do a next one, I don't know, depends how well this one goes. Anyway, toodle pip.